Hi, welcome to this podcast for Chapter 7. This is going to cover Learning Objective 1 and 2, where we talk about cash. So what is cash? It's our most liquid asset. It's a standard medium of exchange. It's how we measure and record all things for our accounting. And you can see it's a current asset. In fact, it's, as mentioned before, the most liquid current asset. What are some examples of cash? A lot of times, when we're first learning accounting, we are debiting cash account or crediting the cash account. But of course, that's not how businesses really keep track of their cash, right? They have bank accounts that they use for that. So you can see an example here: coins, currency, amounts available in checking accounts, savings accounts, other items. Learning Objective 2 deals with how we report cash. So first, let's define this term cash equivalents. When we report cash, most companies report it as cash and cash equivalents. And cash equivalents are short-term, highly liquid investments that are both readily convertible to cash and so near their maturity dates that there is insignificant interest rate risk. Examples: Treasury bills. This is from the U.S. Treasury. Commercial paper. These are loans between large, large companies, fiscally sound companies, and money market funds. Restricted cash. Companies segregate restricted cash from their regular cash. What makes cash restricted? There could be reasons why companies couldn't theoretically spend all the cash they had. There might be compensating balances required for lending agreements. They may have a fund set up to retire long-term debt. They may have a fund set aside for plant expansion. You can see all of those examples there. So when we do that, we report that separately. And here's an example of Delta Airlines. Their cash and cash equivalents, $4.6 billion. Their restricted cash, $423 million. Now, here's what I want you to think about when it comes to this idea of cash and cash equivalents. For most businesses, a checking account doesn't earn them any money. If Delta Airlines had $4.6 billion in their checking account at the beginning of the year, and they didn't do anything at the end of the year, they'd have $4.6 billion at the end of the year. It's like taking your money and stuffing it under your mattress. So these companies take these very large amounts of cash and they move them into these cash equivalents, these short-term, highly liquid investments. And they're very little risk, and likewise there's very little return. But just to give you an idea, if Delta put $4.6 billion into a money market account that was earning 0.5%, that's still $23 million of cash over the course of the year. So those interest rates are very low, but it's not an insignificant amount of money. One last thing: bank overdrafts. If the company writes more money, writes checks. If they write more checks than they have cash to cover, meaning they've bounced a check, a bank overdraft is a current liability, right? It's something that we would owe, and we would show that really as if that really happened, if we had an overdraft in our cash, we would show that as a credit balance, and we would list that as a current liability. Okay. Got this summary. I might have to lower this down to get it all. This is in your textbook, and so I would encourage you to review this. The classification for these items. You'll see some items like this on your exam, I think. So this is a good summary to review before you do that. This again is in your textbook if you want to follow up with it again. All right, that concludes the podcast for Learning Objectives 1 and 2.